Imagine a day filled with fluffy snowflakes, a cozy little church, and the smell of pine needles. That was supposed to be Clara's wedding day. She was a young woman with bright eyes and a heart full of dreams, ready to start her new life in the snowy mountains. Clara lived in a town nestled deep within the mountains. Her dress was as white as the snow outside. But beneath her excitement, Clara felt a tiny flutter of nervousness. She was leaving her family and friends to live with her husband in a remote cabin far from town. Would she be happy so far away? Would she miss her old life too much? She smoothed down her dress and smiled at her reflection. It was time to be brave. Today was her new beginning. She was ready to start this new adventure, even if the quiet of the mountains was different from the bustling town she was used to. She hoped she could make a warm and happy home for herself and her husband, a place where they could share stories and dreams under the starry sky. Just as Clara and her husband, John, said their vows, the wind started to howl. The fluffy snowflakes turned into angry swirls. The sky grew dark, and the windows of the cozy church rattled. Everyone gasped. It wasn't just a pretty snowfall anymore, it was turning into a real snowstorm. The wedding guests started to worry. Some whispered about the dangers of traveling in such weather. The cheerful music stopped, replaced by nervous chatter. Clara's mom rushed to her side, her face etched with concern. "Clara, dear, are you sure you want to go to the cabin tonight? It's getting very bad out there." John, a sturdy man used to the mountains, put his arm around Clara. "Don't worry, everyone. Our cabin is strong, and we have plenty of wood. We'll be safe and warm." But even his voice sounded a little strained. Outside, the snow fell harder and faster. The wind shrieked like a wild animal. It was clear this wasn't just a passing storm, it was a blizzard, and it was coming right for them. The party atmosphere had vanished, replaced by a growing sense of unease. The storm raged outside, and everyone huddled inside the church, unsure what to do. John insisted they would still go to the cabin, but Clara saw the worry in his eyes. As she looked around at the faces of her loved ones, a strange feeling washed over her. It wasn't just fear for herself, it was a deep, unsettling feeling that someone was in trouble. "John," she said, her voice barely a whisper, I think someone needs help." John frowned. "What do you mean, Clara? We all need to stay safe here." "I know, but I can't shake this feeling," she insisted. "Someone is lost out there in the storm, and we need to find them." Her mom gasped. "Clara, you can't be serious. It's too dangerous. You'll get lost yourself." But Clara's mind was made up. She couldn't ignore the persistent tug in her heart. "I have to try," she said, her eyes shining with determination. "I won't be able to live with myself if I don't." She knew it was a crazy idea, venturing out into the blizzard in her wedding dress, but she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was counting on her. Wrapping a thick shawl around her shoulders, Clara stepped out into the storm. The wind immediately tried to steal her breath, and the snow stung her face like tiny needles. It was hard to see more than a few feet in front of her. The world was a swirling white chaos. Each gust of wind threatened to knock her off her feet. The snow piled up quickly, making it difficult to walk. Her beautiful wedding dress, now soaked and heavy, dragged behind her like an anchor. The cold bit through her thin shoes, numbing her toes. The howling wind seemed to be mocking her, whispering doubts in her ear. Turn back, Clara. It's too dangerous. You'll never find anyone in this. But she pushed on, driven by that unwavering feeling in her heart. She called out, her voice barely audible above the roar of the storm. "Hello. Is anyone there? Can anyone hear me?" The only answer was the relentless wind and the swirling snow. The blizzard was a powerful enemy, but Clara was determined to face it. She just hoped she was strong enough. Just when Clara thought she couldn't take another step, she saw something dark huddled against a snowdrift. It was hard to make out in the swirling snow, but it looked like a person. Her heart leaped with a mixture of hope and fear. She stumbled towards the figure, her legs aching with cold and exhaustion. As she got closer, she saw that it was a man, dressed in thick hunting clothes, but covered in snow. He was slumped against the snowdrift, his face pale and his eyes closed. "Hello?" Clara called out, her voice trembling. "Are you all right?" The man didn't respond. She knelt beside him, brushing the snow off his face. His skin was icy cold. She gently shook his shoulder. "Hey! Wake up!" He groaned softly and his eyes fluttered open. He looked at her, confused. Who are you?" he mumbled, his voice weak. "I'm Clara," she said, "and I'm here to help you." "You're lost, aren't you?" The man nodded slowly, his eyes closing again. Clara knew she had to get him out of the storm quickly, or it would be too late. She had found the person she was looking for, but now the real challenge began. "Thomas," he mumbled, his voice raspy. "My name is Thomas." Clara gently helped Thomas sit up. He was shivering uncontrollably. His eyes were glazed over, and he seemed confused. She knew he was suffering from hypothermia. She had to get him warm, and fast. Tearing a strip from the bottom of her already ruined wedding dress, she used it to tie his scarf tighter around his neck. "We need to move," she said, her voice firm. "Can you stand?" Thomas tried to stand, but his legs buckled beneath him. He groaned in pain. Clara realized he was injured. "Lean on me," she said, putting her arm around his waist. "We'll do this together." Despite the cold and her own exhaustion, Clara felt a surge of adrenaline. She had to be strong, not just for herself, but for Thomas too. She wrapped her shawl more tightly around him, sacrificing her own warmth. "We're going to find shelter," she said, her voice filled with determination. "Just keep moving, Thomas. One step at a time." Even in her tattered wedding dress, she was a beacon of hope in the raging storm. With Clara supporting him, Thomas shuffled forward, each step a struggle. The snow was deep, and they stumbled often, sinking up to their knees. Clara kept talking to him, telling him stories about her life in the village, anything to keep him awake and focused. "Remember the time Mrs. Gable's prize-winning pumpkin rolled down Main Street," she said, her voice strained but cheerful. "It nearly crashed into Mr. Henderson's bakery." Thomas chuckled weakly, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. The wind howled, trying to tear them apart. At one point, Thomas lost his footing and they both tumbled into a snowdrift. Clara quickly helped him up, brushing the snow from his face. "We can't give up," she said, her voice firm. "We're almost there. I can feel it." She wasn't sure if she really felt it, or if she was just trying to convince herself, but she knew she had to keep Thomas going. Her wedding dress, once a symbol of hope and new beginnings, was now a testament to her courage and selflessness. It was ripped and stained, but it represented her unwavering commitment to saving a life. As they pressed onward, the terrain became even more treacherous. Patches of ice hidden beneath the snow caused them to slip and slide. Thomas, despite his weakened state, began to anticipate these hazards, warning Clara of the slick spots. "Ice. Be careful," he'd whisper, pointing with a gloved hand. Clara, in turn, used her knowledge of the area to guide them around the deepest snowdrifts. "The wind usually piles the snow up near those trees," she'd say, steering them towards a less obstructed path. They were working together, relying on each other's strengths. Their progress was slow and painstaking, but with each small victory, avoiding a fall, finding a slightly easier path, their hope grew. They were no longer just a lost hunter and a determined bride, they were a team, bound together by their shared struggle for survival. The storm still raged, but their combined strength was beginning to rival its fury. They were proving that even the fiercest blizzard couldn't extinguish the power of human connection. A small, flickering light of hope shone within them both. Through the swirling snow, Clara spotted it, a small, dark shape barely visible against the white landscape. It was a cabin, old and weathered, but still standing. Hope surged through her. Thomas! Look, she exclaimed, pointing towards the cabin. Shelter. With renewed determination, they stumbled towards it, their legs heavy with exhaustion. The door creaked open as Clara pushed it, revealing a single, dark room. It was cold and dusty, but it was out of the wind and snow. Clara helped Thomas to a rickety chair near the fireplace. She examined his leg, finding a deep gash hidden beneath his snow-covered pants. This needs cleaning, she said, tearing another strip from her dress. While Thomas rested, Clara gathered some dry wood she found stacked in a corner. Her fingers fumbled with the matches, but finally, a tiny flame flickered to life. She carefully added more wood, coaxing the flame into a warm, crackling fire. The cabin began to fill with a comforting glow, chasing away the shadows and the bitter cold. They were safe, for now. The fire crackled merrily, casting dancing shadows on the cabin walls. Thomas, wrapped in Clara's shawl, sat closer to the warmth, his shivering slowly subsiding. The storm still raged outside, but inside the cabin, a sense of peace began to settle. "Thank you, Clara," Thomas said softly, his voice still weak. "You saved my life." "I'm just glad I found you," Clara replied, smiling gently. "What were you doing out there in this weather?" Thomas hesitated for a moment, then began to explain. He told her about his love for the mountains, his passion for hunting, and his recent feeling of being lost and aimless. He spoke of wandering into the woods, seeking solace, and getting caught off guard by the sudden blizzard. Clara, in turn, shared her own story. She told him about her dreams of being an artist, her secret longing for adventure, and her nervousness about settling into a quiet life in the mountains. As they talked, they discovered a surprising connection, a shared yearning for something more. They found common ground in their dreams and fears, and the storm outside seemed a little less frightening. Thomas grew up in the mountains. As a boy, he spent his days exploring the forests, learning the names of every tree and the habits of every animal. His father, a seasoned hunter, taught him how to track, how to build a shelter, and how to respect the wilderness. Thomas became skilled at hunting, providing food for his family and neighbors. He felt a deep connection to the land, a sense of belonging that filled his heart. But lately, something had changed. The mountains that once brought him joy now felt like a cage. He felt restless, unsure of his purpose. The old ways of hunting seemed less fulfilling. He missed his father, who had passed away a few years ago. Thomas felt lost without his guidance. He started to question everything he knew. He wandered further and further into the woods, searching for answers, but only finding more questions. The storm, he realized, was a reflection of the turmoil within him. He had lost his way, not just in the mountains, but in his own life. He longed to rediscover that sense of peace and purpose he once felt, to find his way back to himself. Clara, too, had a secret world hidden beneath her outward appearance. Ever since she was a little girl, she loved to draw and paint. She filled notebooks with sketches of the mountains, the animals, and the people around her. She dreamed of traveling to faraway lands, seeing new sights, and capturing them all on canvas. But in her small village, girls were expected to get married and raise families, not chase after artistic dreams. Her family encouraged her to focus on practical skills, like cooking and sewing. She loved her family and wanted to please them, so she tried to suppress her artistic passions. She agreed to marry John, a kind and dependable man who offered her a comfortable life. But deep down, she felt a sense of unease, a feeling that she was settling for something less than what she truly desired. The wedding, she thought, would be the start of her real life. The feeling that she was meant for more haunted her. Out in the storm, though, something shifted. She wasn't just someone's wife, she was someone saving a life. The storm forced her to see her own strength and that maybe a different path was possible. As dawn approached, the wind began to die down, and the snow fell less fiercely. A faint light filtered through the cabin windows. Clara and Thomas, exhausted but safe, sat by the fire, listening to the changing sounds of the storm. Suddenly, they heard voices outside. "Clara! Thomas! Are you there?" Clara rushed to the door and threw it open. A group of villagers, led by her husband, John, stood before them, their faces etched with relief. "Clara! We were so worried!" John exclaimed, rushing to embrace her. The villagers helped Thomas out of the cabin and onto a makeshift sled. As they made their way back to the village, Clara felt a mix of emotions. Relief that they were safe, gratitude for the villagers' help, and a strange sense of sadness that her adventure with Thomas was over. She glanced back at the small cabin, a silent witness to their shared ordeal. It had been a place of refuge, a place where they had found not only shelter from the storm, but also a connection with each other. Now, it was time to return to her old life, but she knew that nothing would ever be quite the same. Back in the village, Clara was hailed as a hero. People praised her bravery and selflessness. Her torn wedding dress was displayed in the church as a symbol of her courage. John was proud of her, but Clara could see a flicker of confusion in his eyes. He didn't understand why she had risked her life to save a stranger. As Thomas recovered in the village, Clara visited him often. They talked about their dreams, their fears, and the unexpected connection they had found in the storm. She realized that she felt something for Thomas, something more than just gratitude. His passion for the wilderness, his understanding of her artistic spirit, resonated with her in a way that John's steady reliability never had. Clara found herself torn between her commitment to John and her growing feelings for Thomas. She loved John, but she wasn't sure if she was in love with him. The life she had imagined with him now felt stifling, like a beautiful cage. The storm had cleared, but a new storm was brewing in her heart. She didn't know what to do. As Thomas healed, he thought a lot about Clara's courage and kindness. She had risked everything to save him, a complete stranger. He had never met anyone so selfless. He started to see the world in a new light. Before the storm, he had been consumed by his own problems, his own sense of loss. Now, he realized there was so much more to life than his own struggles. He began to appreciate the beauty of the mountains in a different way. He saw the interconnectedness of all things, the delicate balance of nature. He realized that his skills as a hunter could be used for more than just providing food. He could use them to protect the wilderness, to guide others through the mountains, and to share his knowledge with future generations. Clara's bravery inspired him to be a better person, to find purpose in his life, and to give back to the community that had always supported him. He understood now, that being lost sometimes helps you find what you are really looking for. He also wanted to show Clara how grateful he was for everything she did. Clara, too, was forever changed by the storm. The feeling of helplessness she had experienced before was gone, replaced by a newfound sense of confidence and purpose. She realized that she didn't have to be confined to the traditional role of a wife and homemaker. She could be both a wife and an artist, a caregiver and an adventurer. She started to sketch again, filling notebooks with drawings of the mountains, the village, and the people she knew. She painted the storm, capturing its fury and its beauty on canvas. Her art became a way for her to express her emotions, her dreams, and her newfound understanding of the world. John, though he didn't fully understand her artistic passions, supported her efforts. He built her a small studio in their home, a place where she could create and explore her talents. He saw the joy that art brought her, and he wanted her to be happy, even if it meant deviating from the traditional path they had planned. Clara began to sell her paintings in the village, and soon her art became known throughout the region. People were drawn to her unique style and her ability to capture the essence of the mountains. She had found her voice, and she was finally ready to share it with the world. Thomas, inspired by Clara's selflessness, decided to use his knowledge of the mountains to help others. He became a guide for hikers and adventurers, sharing his love for the wilderness and teaching them how to respect its power. He also volunteered his time to protect the local wildlife, working to prevent poaching and preserve the natural habitat. He taught the children of the village about the mountains, showing them how to identify animal tracks, how to build a fire safely, and how to navigate by the stars. He wanted to instill in them the same love and respect for the wilderness that his father had instilled in him. He became a protector of the mountains, a guardian of the forests, and a mentor to the young. He had found his purpose, not in hunting for survival, but in preserving the beauty and balance of the natural world. He was no longer lost, he had found his way back to himself, and in doing so, he had found a way to serve his community and honor the legacy of his father. The mountains were no longer a cage, but a canvas on which he could paint his new life. Though Clara remained married to John, her relationship with Thomas blossomed into a deep and lasting friendship. They understood each other in a way that few others could. They shared a bond forged in the heart of the storm, a connection that transcended the boundaries of marriage and societal expectations. Clara and Thomas often met to talk about their dreams, their challenges, and their hopes for the future. Clara painted portraits of Thomas in the mountains, capturing his strength and his newfound purpose. Thomas guided Clara on hikes through the wilderness, showing her the hidden beauty of the natural world and inspiring her art. They celebrated each other's successes and supported each other through difficult times. They recognized the profound impact their encounter had on their lives, and they cherished the special friendship that had grown out of it. They knew that their lives would have been very different if they hadn't met that day in the storm. Their friendship was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope and connection can be found. It was something they would always treasure. Clara, though her heart held a special place for Thomas, remained committed to John. She found fulfillment in her art, using her talents to capture the beauty of the mountains and the spirit of the people who lived there. Her paintings told stories of courage, resilience, and the power of human connection. She also became a source of inspiration for others in the village. She encouraged young women to pursue their dreams, regardless of societal expectations. She taught art classes to children, helping them to express themselves and discover their own creative talents. She showed others that it was possible to be both strong and compassionate, both independent and connected. She used her experiences in the storm to help others find their own courage, to face their fears, and to follow their hearts. She became a pillar of the community, a beacon of hope and inspiration for all who knew her. She proved that even in the quietest of lives, one could create a masterpiece. Thomas, no longer lost, dedicated his life to protecting the wilderness that he loved. He patrolled the mountains, ensuring the safety of the animals and the preservation of the forests. He guided lost hikers back to safety, sharing his knowledge and skills with them. He never forgot Clara's bravery that day in the storm. Her selflessness had saved his life and inspired him to find purpose in his own. He often thought of her as he wandered through the mountains, remembering her kindness, her strength, and her unwavering determination. He carried a small sketch that Clara had drawn of him in his pocket, a reminder of their shared experience and the bond that had formed between them. He knew that he would always be grateful for her presence in his life. He was a guardian of the mountains, a protector of the lost, and a friend to all who sought his help. He had found his way, and he would never forget the woman who had shown him the path. His life was a testament to the power of kindness and the transformative effects of a single act of courage. And so, the story of Clara and Thomas reminds us that life is full of unexpected encounters, and that sometimes, the greatest transformations come from the most challenging experiences. A daring snowstorm, a lost hunter, and a courageous bride, these were the ingredients for a life-changing journey. It teaches us that it's important to listen to that small voice inside us, the one that urges us to help others, to follow our dreams, and to be true to ourselves. Following one's heart may not always be easy, but it is always worth it. Clara and Thomas both found their true paths, not by sticking to the expected course, but by embracing the unexpected and allowing their hearts to guide them. They showed that even in the face of adversity, it is possible to find hope, connection, and purpose. The storm may have brought chaos and uncertainty, but it also brought clarity and a renewed sense of direction. It reminded them both that life is an adventure, and that the greatest rewards come from daring to follow one's heart, no matter where it may lead.